Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. This is your tip of the week and it's all about sewing sleeves into garments. For instance, the t-shirt that I have on right here has a set-in sleeve. In other words, there's a seam that goes all the way around the armhole. But let's take a look at another top. This top right here has a dolman sleeve. There is no seam around the armpit. There's just a seam at the shoulder and a seam on the side. So if you are a beginner sewer and you want to get started making clothing, look for a top like this or dress or jacket that has a dolman sleeve. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to do the set-in sleeve, and I'm going to show you two different ways you can do it. So here is the pattern that I'm going to use. Now you can use any pattern. This is just to help you understand the process of putting a sleeve in. So I'm going to be focusing on this one. And the technique I'm going to show you works with whether it's a long sleeve, a medium length sleeve, or a little cap sleeve. Let's take a look at the pattern pieces that are going to be used in the top. Here is the front pattern piece and the back. Right here you see these little triangular shapes. These are known as notches, and these are very important when you're putting your sleeve in. On the front pattern piece it has one little triangle, and on the back pattern piece it has two triangles. Now here is the pattern piece for the sleeve itself. So right over here you have a single notch, and then on the other side you have a double notch. So you have to make sure you mark your fabric as you cut it out. Mark where these little notches are. If it's just one, I usually just put a little dot for one, and on the other piece I'll put two little dots for two, because you want to make sure you match everything together. Here is the pattern instruction itself. So it shows you stitching the side seam of the sleeve itself. So you want to stitch that in. Also, you want to make sure you have the side seams stitched on the front and back section of the blouse. So all your seams are put in, and your shoulder seam is also put in. If you'll notice, there's these little dash lines here. That represents a term that's called ease. They're going to say you want to ease that area in. They don't really go into how to ease, so I'm going to go over that. I wish they did, but they didn't at all. So down here, it shows you the next step is inserting the sleeve in the armhole of the blouse itself, and then matching your notches and pinning everything together. Here is my fabric, and I have it all marked, and I have my little stitch lines where I want to ease the sleeve in. And again, I'm going to explain what all that means. So here's my single notch dot right here, and then over on the other side is my double notch dot. So when you're putting all of this in, remember you want to match the correct notches together. Now you'll notice that I have two lines of stitching right here. This is a large basting stitch. In the pattern, this piece in here is actually cut bigger than the armhole. So easing means you want to be able to ease all this fabric in to a smaller space and not get any pin tucks or ruffles in it. So how you avoid that is to do two lines of basting stitches, and then what you do is over here you grab the ends of both threads as soon as I can get a hold of them, and then you begin to gather it up, a slight gather evenly all around here, and that helps to ease it in to a smaller space. So before you can put this sleeve in, make sure you bring the sides of the sleeve together. And then most pattern pieces for clothing is a standard 5/8 inch wide seam. So you would go ahead and stitch that seam all along here. Here is my shoulder seam. And then inside here, I've inserted the sleeve. And remember that little dot that was at the very top point of the arch on the pattern? Then you want to place that dot at your center seam. Then down here at the bottom, in the armpit area, match your seam. Then go and pin your notches together where your single and double dots are at. Then you see my little gathering here? You want to smooth it and ease it in and pin it down as best you can. Then you would stitch a 5/8 inch seam. Now the best way to stitch this armhole is to remove any storage tray that's around the arm of your sewing machine or any extension table. Remove all of that, slip this over the arm, and then stitch it in. After you've done stitching, then of course turn it front side out and look to make sure you don't have any pin tucks. I don't really, but kind of close in some areas, but I haven't done this in so many years. I thought it's not such a bad job after maybe 20 years of not doing sleeves. But it really is something that takes a lot of practice. So if you're going to do it this way, don't spend a lot of money on your fabric. Pick something simple. Okay, now I'm going to show you another way. On this version, do not stitch the side seam together of the front and back or the side seam of the sleeve piece itself. So here's my front and back sections out here. So here's where these should have been stitched together. But as I said, in this version or technique, do not stitch the side. Then go ahead and match all of your little notches or dots, whichever method you used. And so I've matched all that. Match at the top, at the seam, at the shoulder, match that area. Then ease your fabric in and pin it down. As you can see here, when you ease it in, it's not heavily gathered. It's just very slightly gathered. And then you go ahead and stitch from one end to the other your 5/8 inch seam. So after you have your seam for your sleeve stitched in, then you want to bring front sides together of the blouse or dress, top, whatever you're making. Match your seam at the armpit on both sides, and then, of course, pin all along this side area through the sleeve and down the side of your garment. Then do your 5/8 inch seam or whatever your pattern calls for. Well, I hope you found this helpful on how to go about putting a sleeve in. Remember, if you're a beginner, you've never made clothing before, look for tops that have the dolman sleeve. It's going to be a lot easier and less frustrating. For those of you who have done some clothing, go ahead and try something like this, but don't spend a lot of money on your fabric just yet. Just try to pick something that's inexpensive so that it doesn't come out very good. You haven't wasted a whole lot of money. If you're interested in other tips of the week or how to sew other garments, like the garment that's on the mannequin, the link will be listed below your YouTube screen on all of that information. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.